All right, we're gonna open the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October the 6th, at 4 o'clock. And our first thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 1st meeting. Do you have anything before we discuss this? I've reviewed them, they looked okay to me with my feeble mind.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, so now we will move on to 2A, a replat of Peterson Regional Medical Center, Lot 1R, Block 1. Drew?
This is a replat of the hospital property. As many of you know, hospital is working on their master plan and expansion. Here's the replat. They are adding lot 1, block 2, back behind off of Lehman. And they are doing some realignment of Leonard and Lehman, that intersection. So it is dedicating a new portion of Leonard Drive as it connects to Lehman, and this is a new lot, and technically replatting the hospital because of the way this corner kind of carved out. Worked through any discrepancies and issues with staff, so staff recommends it as presented. No conditions.
We looked at this before. Any questions for Drew? Any comments before we consider this, guys? If there are no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion on the replat.
I'll move to approve the plat.
We have a-
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the plat. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, this motion passes. Thanks, Drew. We're gonna go on to 2B. Final plat of Lot 2A, the Seeker Edition.
This is a replat of Lot 2, Seeker Edition. This one's a little unusual, so I'll kind of walk through a little bit of it for you. Here's the original plat from '86. This property was divided into Lot 1 and 2. As you can see, Lot 2 there runs from Thompson Highway all the way to the river. Some point, it was Lot 2 was subdivided by meets and bounds. So the current owner is platting 2A, that 1 acre portion adjacent to the river. We did have some concerns as we were looking through some of the subdivision ordinance, how it relates to both the plat and any future development. As we dug in with staff and kind of went through the subdivision code and related fire code, floodplain management and so on, we did determine that those are all going to be dictated by whatever development is proposed, and they don't have any planned development at this time. They're just trying to plat it. So those section numbers, kind of go through those real quick for you. Again, these are deferred to development plans, permits, construction plans for utilities and so on. So ultimately, we are recommending approval of the replat. But they will have to look at construction plans for extension of water and sewer, or excuse me, of water. Obviously, those plans will have to conform to all plans and specifications. There is not a fire hydrant within roughly 900 feet of this property. The fire code, depending upon development, requires a hydrant closer. But since we don't have any planned development, there's not a requirement for that today. There is water and sewer in the easement you see on the property. That is a transmission. The water is a transmission line, and they have a previous agreement for a water tap there, but that would not suffice as fire suppression, so they'll have to work through those details. But again, those are all deferred to the development phase, so staff recommends the replat as presented.
So just replatting the property is just a reconfiguration.
Right. Like I said, the
Doesn't
oddity
guarantee
was.
anything as far as development, correct?
That's correct. And the oddity was it's actually already it was subdivided years ago. They're formalizing that subdivision by this replat. Any questions?
Questions, guys? Any? So
Like I said, it's somewhat unique. We don't get a lot of these.
Yeah, the capability of bringing the fire hydrant in is,
It's possible.
There, right?
There's a water line on Thompson that they could tie into.
okay,
And then work with TxDOT, of course, to come down Francisco Lemos. If they can work with engineering, kind of the initial discussion with engineering is that transmission line is not eligible for fire hydrant, a fire hydrant tap and fire suppression, because that's dedicated to filling other water tanks in town, for other areas in the water system. But eligibility, they do have access to it. It will take some effort to get it there, but certainly it is feasible, yes.
Money, right? It's just money.
At some point.
Questions? All right, then I will entertain a motion on this replat.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a
I'll
second.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. We're gonna move on to 3A. We're getting into the public hearing phase. So we're gonna start with 3A, conditional use permit for 220 River Hill Club Lane, number 13.
Okay, this is a short-term rental, conditional use permit for number 13, 220 River Hill Club. Go through our images here and I'll turn it over to the applicant real quick. Here's the site plan showing the units. And here's our short-term rental map. We do have one approved immediately to the south and then 3 grandfathered a little further up the road. And you see the other pending requests that are on the agenda today. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant before the public hearing.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry Cody, and just so you know, I'm 3A, 3B, and 3C. 3A and 3B are my properties, and 3C is my father's property. These units were built in 1977 as part of River Hill's Play and Stay program. Each unit, the master bedrooms, have outside door access so that the units can be divided into 1-room short-term rentals, 2-bedroom short-term rentals, or however you want to configure it. They were the Las Casitas, there's 16 of them. There are only currently 6 permanent residents in the casitas. The rest are holiday homes and people like me who own them but don't live in them currently. Each unit has 2 marked parking spaces, and then we have a section of visitor parking as well. And not visible on this map, but across the street is probably another dozen or so parking spots that surround the tennis courts, if that's an issue. So I'm 13, 14, and number 9.
So I have a question for you,
Sure.
Terry. What is the number for the 16 units? Do you have a total of the number of visitor parking that is available for the
It's-
16 units?
There's 4.
So for the 16 units, there's 4. So every other parking space in there is assigned to one of the units except for 4 spaces.
Yes, sir.
And the tennis court parking across the street, who owns that?
That's unassigned.
No, but I'm saying who owns it? Does it go to the casitas or does it just go to the,
It's not part of the casita's property. It's just additional parking across the street.
is it public or does it belong to the?
I don't have an answer for that question.
I'm not sure. Let me see what I can find.
Does anyone?
I think it belongs to River Hill.
River Hill-
think,
River Hill-
because-
the-
Probably.
Because the tennis
Because they're
courts,
adjacent to the tennis courts.
okay.
but I think, I couldn't speak for River Hill, but
So, I mean, I can get into it in the public hearing, but that's a material factor because if each unit is assigned 2 parking spaces and there's already 1 there and you're asked, there's gonna be 4 more, that requires for each one of those units, more parking spaces than the visitor parking provides.
Then how did number 12 get a conditional use permit? They only have 2 and visitor parking as well.
It's a good question, I don't know. I mean, if it was 1, I would say you have one unit and there's 4 visitor parking spaces that are shared with all 16 units. But I don't know, I mean, I guess that's a question we're gonna have to ask. Okay, so I guess we'll get into the public hearing, Terry, and then we can,
Okay.
if anyone has questions for you,
Okay.
we'll. So I'm gonna open the public hearing on this at 4:09. I do have one speaker for this. Were you able to find out, Drew?
According to GIS, the parking space is here and around the tennis courts. are on the River Hill Country Club property. And I know I forget the number, excuse me. Number 12. This unit here, when the commission looked at that, these 4 parking spaces here were part of that consideration, that those are available parking as well.
I remember that. So those 4 parking spaces are just, they're community spaces?
I believe so. I believe it's actually in the right of way, but that was part of the commission's consideration, is that they were built with the casitas. I don't know if they're deeded to the casitas or not, but that was part of the site plan for that case.
All right, Nikki?
Hi, Nikki Gaines. I live in the city, and I'm a member of the Kerrville chapter of the Texas Neighborhood Coalition. I'm here to speak again because of the sheer number of applicants, especially for this one area. I believe there are already 4 STRs in there, and there's 4 more on the docket tonight for that same area on that same street. I just find that for that one man who said he was one of 6 residents who are permanent residents, that would be a little overwhelming if it was my street block and I had that many visitors, overnight guests, in and out all the time. So I would ask that you could consider that in making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else signed up to speak on this. We do have a letter or an email. Was that an email or letter of opposition, Drew?
Yes, that was one that came in after the packet was published.
Sullivan, one of the owners of one of the units there?
I believe that's
His
correct.
address?
It's across the street. It's not one of the casitas.
No, it's,
That was a letter in favor.
yeah.
The one that came in.
Oh, excuse me. There's a letter in favor that came in after the packet,
And I saw that.
in support of these actual 4.
Drew, if you-
Ms. Sullivan is across Fairway Drive. That's the one that was.
The letter that came in is from the owner of several of these? Or 2 of these?
He owns number 9.
Okay.
So, yeah, the letter that came in today is the owner of number 9 in support of all 4. The letter that was in the published packet is Ms. Sullivan. She's across Fairway Drive.
Okay. Any comments, guys, if we have no one else to speak, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 4:13. Oh, I'm sorry.
Am I allowed to speak again?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have a sign-up sheet for anyone else, but we'll keep,
I signed a card at the desk and.
you signed a card for 3A?
3E.
Well, we hadn't gotten to 3E yet.
Oh, I thought you were talking
No, ma'am.
Period.
We'll get there. No, ma'am. Go ahead, Terry.
I appreciate their concerns. These units are not houses, they're connected townhomes. There is not one of those 6 permanent residents here today. And the parking for number 12, I'm the president of our Las Casitas Homeowners Association. That parking is maintained by Las Casitas and is part of Las Casitas, and it is parking for number 12 and for number 11.
So that parking space is right there, which this unit maintains, is only good for 2, is only allowed for 2?
For the conditional use permit for number 12, only has 2 spaces, yes.
Oh, okay, I see what
Yes,
you're
it's
saying.
these two, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Terry, or Ms.
There's 4 spaces, but those are for units 12 and 11.
Okay.
Only for 12 and 11?
Yes.
Is there a
Okay.
reason for that? I don't,
Well, because the parking, those 2 units have the parking out here, and then 9 and 10, which are adjacent, have the parking in front of their units. We tried to configure.
Oh, so that is their two assigned spaces for each one of
Yes,
those
sir.
units? Okay, gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Now I understand. Gotcha.
Um,
So now let me close the public hearing. You, Terry, you can still speak if we have questions or
Do you
anything.
guys have any more questions?
At this point, I do not.
Okay.
so Chairman, I do have, she may be able to answer as the representative of the HOA as well.
Sure.
I know you and I talked before the meeting, so I know kind of where you're going with the parking requirement. Standard parking for short-term rental is one space per bedroom, plus one additional space per off-site
Correct.
manager. So if these being 2 or 3 bedrooms would require 3 or 4
Four,
parking
right.
spaces. Typical of the more or less single-family detached that we've looked at, they can add those additional spaces after approval. So the commission wanted to keep that into consideration if it's possible for them to construct additional parking spaces. Because I don't know how the HOA is set up for these. They certainly have room to expand that parking lot in this area to account for those additional spaces if it was approved by the commission, if that makes sense.
I understand that. That
Like I
would,
said,
that would be a question
the
for
total
the,
number,
for the HOA because I'm assuming that, I don't know who would cover the cost of that.
Right.
You know,
And we may not have to have an answer today. That can be part of your
Right.
conditions. Staff will certainly work with them and make sure that happens before they start operating. Similar to what we've done on some of your more traditional single-family that have to expand or add parking. We'll follow up with them and make sure that's completed, so.
Terry, is that a possibility to add additional parking next to those 4 visitors' parking spaces?
That's a good question. I don't believe in that space. One, I don't know who owns the deed to that land, to that
Okay.
property, and 2, I'm not sure in that space. There's mailboxes
Okay,
in front of that area right there.
Sorry, I'll go back to aerial. I know it's kind
Yeah.
of small on everybody's
It
screen
is
there.
small.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
obviously trees and you can see there's something else there. But oops, wrong direction.
So,
It wouldn't necessarily have to be here, but again, we don't have to have that determined today. If the commission requires those parking spaces, moving forward, they'll have to work through and figure that out before they can start operating as short-term rental. And we'll work with them through that process.
that is something we could ask River Hill.
I mean, it might even be as simple as just, you have quite a few parking spaces right across the highway there. To see if there is some type of, is it just anybody can park there, first come, first served? Do they have to be using the tennis courts, or do we know that? Or it's just anyone can park there?
No one questions it around there.
Okay. Because, I mean,
I've seen a lot of cars parked there
So there's-
before, so.
there's 12, did you say, Larry? 12 spaces over there? Larry, is it?
Yeah, at least,
Okay.
because they keep snaking round and down, and then there's more in front of the pool. and so on and so forth.
I think some people park there that stay at River Hills rentals. They also park across the street sometimes.
Terry, do you think you could get if it helps appease the parking, a written agreement with River Hill to allow y'all just to say you have the extra parking spots across the street?
I believe so, because they would really like our units to be in the stay and play program.
And
So, just, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, having worked at River Hill when I first moved to Kerrville, I know exactly what those were built for and how they were. So I know they were part of. So, and I know everything else down that street is part of the River Hill Casita rental pool. So my only concern is like everybody else's, and what it says and what it states is our quote-unquote bylaws is parking. So one spot for every bedroom plus an on-site manager or off-site manager's ability to park.
You have 6 permanent residents in there, Terry?
Yes.
I'm sure they were all notified, they saw the signs. Has anyone had any, I haven't,
They expect them to be.
Okay.
In fact, the few I've talked, well, I'm head up the meetings. and
Right.
They expect them to be rented.
Well, I mean,
They know that that's part of living in the Las Casitas.
the fact that there's nobody here
Terry,
complaining that
good
lives there
contact.
is,
You need me there?
Yeah, sorry for the recording.
Okay.
just, the fact that there is no one here, no one that lives there is here in opposition to this speaks like that. Is it, I mean, my only concern, I looked at this, I've driven there, my only concern is the parking. My only concern is that you have 2 spaces for each unit, and then you're required to have 1 or 2 more. And I didn't even realize there was only 4 visitors parking spaces. That is my only concern, because no one seems to be concerned of having a short-term rental next door to them, sharing a wall. I don't want to say that we could approve this contingent on you getting permission from River Hill to, if having them not guaranteed, but they have the ability, if the parking space across the street is open, to use it.
I
How would,
don't think you can condition it on
Right.
specific to River Hill, but it would be conditioned, or the draft conditions before you are contingent upon obtaining those parking, one way or the other.
so are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
That would be,
Yeah.
I mean, that's my,
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously they're rental, they look like rentals, so. I mean, that was my big concern, was parking. Anybody else have any comments, or?
Let me, yes, just to clarify, please, Terry. So it says 2-bedroom with 2 designated parking spots, correct? Mm-hmm. So, and then
Each unit has 2 designated parking spots.
on top of visitor parking
Yes, sir.
of the other spots available. Okay, I was reading that and I wanted to make sure that I was correct in what I was reading, so.
So is one of the ones you have, Terry, a 3-bedroom?
Yes, number 14 is a 3-bedroom.
And the other 2
Are
are
2-bedroom.
2-bedroom, okay.
Yeah, 14 has 3 with 2 designated.
All right, well, they all have 2, so,
Right.
I mean, it has 3 bedrooms. It doesn't have to be used as a 3-bedroom if you, because one of the bedrooms is downstairs, which is also like a part of the living area.
yeah. I mean, that would be up to you.
Yeah.
Are you going to manage them?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't, kind of had some of my concerns relieved here, so I don't have any other questions. Anybody else have any? Can we do all 3 of these at one time?
We have to have separate public hearings.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve resolution for 220 River Hill Court, number 13. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
As is?
Well, it's gonna be, he's gonna make it subject to the parking. We don't have to.
The conditions in your backup state that they will meet the parking requirement.
Yeah, they have to meet that, so.
I'll second
We have
Mike.
a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, this motion passes. I guess just hang out, Terry.
I'll hang out.
We're gonna go to 3B.
3B is a conditional use permit for a short-term rental on lot 14, block 1, River Hill, Las Casitas, number 14. I'll spare you the comments from staff.
You can
Same as-
spare us and Terry
same as
can
before.
spare us. And I have no one signed up to speak
Go ahead and open and close. Just-
on, this is B. So I'm gonna open the public hearing at 4:23. And then I'm gonna close the public hearing. Oops, step up.
Bruce Drakey, 615 Earl Garrett. This is a very special case. Not only were these properties designed for this use originally, but unlike a single-family home on its own single lot, with the shared parking, what are the odds that the manager for every unit is going to show up at the same moment and
I
not
agree.
find a parking spot? And so I just wanted to, I mean, I think where you guys are headed is, I don't know where you're headed, but I think you're headed that way. But there is actually, I mean, I've driven by this place several times, and doesn't seem to be an issue of parking. I understand some of it's reserved, which is a casita issue in their association. But the manager parking has always been kind of an interesting requirement, in my opinion, in the STRs. And in this example, we've got 4 visitor spots. The odds of having more than 4 property managers show up at the same time is very unlikely, and there is the parking across the street, so I appreciate that.
Your
I just
point is well
wanted-
taken, but the other side of this is there are 6 people that permanently live there.
Right,
That visitor parking is for them as well, and I was, if there was 10 people that lived there, I would be much more concerned. But you have to take into account the fact that that is their parking as well. And if you have 5 short-term rentals and there's 4 of them occupied and all those spaces are taken, and I live there and I have guests that come over. But I think the cross the street really mitigates all this anyway, so. I mean,
Again,
that's
I'm
my
just,
opinion.
you guys seem to be headed a direction
Yeah.
from the public. I think there's some approval.
Anybody else want to speak? I'll close the public hearing at 4:25. Any questions? You have anything else you want to say, Terry?
No,
All right, we'll entertain a motion on number 14 on 220 River Hill Club Lane.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. All in favor? Raise your hand. We move on to C.
Conditional use permit for short-term rental on lot 9, block 1. This is unit number 9.
If no one signed up to speak on this, I'll open the public hearing at 4:26.
I thought that lady wanted to say something.
No, she's in another one. She's waiting for another one. I'm gonna close the public hearing at 4:26. If there are no questions from Ms. Cody, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Hang on.
Are you done?
thank you.
Thank you.
She needs to be on P and Z, she's voting too.
You know, Terry, they are accepting applications for planning and zoning.
Jeff
Yes, Jeff.
and Cliff.
All right, we're gonna move on to 3D. I think that's what we're doing. A resolution to allow conditional use permit for short-term rental unit number 5.
Sir. And same thing, same complex, so a little different site
The only
plan.
difference is I'm moving over to hole number 5. I'm the property manager. I can walk across the country club. I don't need a parking spot.
And you have a golf cart.
And I have a golf cart.
Well, I don't have anyone signed. I'm gonna open it. Did you have anything, ma'am, that you needed to say?
That's the same thing.
You want Terry to stand up and speak for you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna open the public hearing at 4:27. Anyone? Close the public hearing at 4:27. I guess if no one has any questions, everything should be this easy. I'll entertain a motion on number 3D for Unit 5.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Thank you.
Good luck, ladies. Thank you. 3E.
All right, 3E is a resolution to allow a conditional use permit for short-term rental, lot 1, block 1, River Hill Townhome, more commonly known as 503 Oakland Hills Lane. As a site plan showing 4 parking spaces for the 3-bedroom, 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway. And there's, far left side of the screen, you see that last grandfather one that we, on River Hill Club Lane. No others within the immediate area. I'll turn it over to the
We
applicant.
do have the applicant here. That's you, Larry.
My name's Larry Howard. I live at 503 Oakland Hills Lane and file the required paperwork for approval with parking for 503 Oakland Hills Lane. Thank you.
Bet. I do have some speakers signed up this, so I'm gonna open up this public hearing at 4:29. And I have Pamela,
Yes.
it's your,
Knees.
it's your turn, ma'am.
Well, let me see what I can do here. My name is Pamela Uknees, and I reside at 505 Oakland Hills Lane here in Kerrville. After retirement, my husband and I decided we wanted to live in beautiful Texas Hill Country, specifically here in Kerrville. But after my husband passed, I found myself moving here alone.
I chose to move here to Kerrville for the quality and vibrancy of the community, to be near family here, and to be in a neighborhood that would offer me consistency, stability, and moreover, safety. I found that in my forever home in River Hill, which is next door to the proposed conditional use short-term rental 503 Oakland Hills Lane, item 3E on the agenda. My objection to the short-term rentals in R2 zoning districts on a whole, however, I would like to explain to you why and what alternatives I would respectfully request you to consider. Our city council recently adopted, less than 2 weeks, actually, 2 weeks ago, an ordinance 2022-28, which, let me find that place, which determined in which zoning district a short-term rental use was allowed to operate, either as a permitted or a conditional use. In addition to identifying the permitted districts, it removed any conditional use pursuant to a required conditional use permit. R2 conditional use permits were removed per the ordinance, which is why I would automatically recommend denial of the applications for short-term rentals in an R2 zoning district. 3 residential districts were granted permission per this ordinance: R1A, R3, and RT. Why was this? The R1A is a larger lot zoning, and the zoning code specifically states that it is designed to incentivize home ownership and property improvement by encouraging owners to invest in an older home with potential for producing income from their investment. The recent ordinance allows R1A short-term rentals. R3 is a multifamily zoning for apartments or condominiums on a lot. This is specifically per the code, a transition zone between lower density residential uses and higher intensity commercial uses. RT zoning is also defined as a transition zone between residential and commercial. It also calls for larger lots as a minimum. R2 zoning districts are designed for patio homes, single-family dwelling, and for smaller residential lots. R2 minimum design standards are such that this is for residential use, hence is why I believe City Council removed R2 from allowing short-term rentals. Consider too that residential use is where street and pavement designs are such that it accommodates residential traffic loads. Residents are purchasing homes that are R2 style districts because they offer a quiet, low profile, low traffic, close-knit community environment, not a transient multifamily or hotel come and go environment, which would generally be buffered from traditional residential subdivisions. The alternative to short-term rentals in R1 and R2 zoning districts are long-term rentals for 1 year or greater, which legally organized homeowners associations have allowed for years. I sincerely hope you will consider maintaining the consistency, the stability, and moreover, the safety of our R2 neighborhoods. I thank you for your time today to listen to my concern. I respectfully request that you consider denying all conditional applications that are in residential districts that do not comply with the new ordinance 2022-28. And consider alternatives which could positively impact our community, our residents, and our overall general health and safety. And I have an expanded copy of this for each of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't know if there are enough there. I
have more. Need another.
All right, Catherine.
I'm Catherine Pierce, and I live at 514 Oakland Hills Lane. And I didn't come as well prepared. I just came to tell you that I have lived on that street for almost 30 years. And I can point to other homes that people have been on that street even longer than I have. And we have a couple of recent people who have come in who are younger and have small children. However, the rest of us are gray-haired senior citizens. And that really is my objection. We live a quieter life. We go to bed earlier. We are not out on the streets late. And I like my street the way it is. I like for it to be a comfortable place to come home to and a place that I can enjoy. And I really don't want a B&B on my street. I would rather have other neighbors like the ones that are there that enjoy one another and live quieter lives.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You bet. Leonard?
Yes, Leonard White. Wife and I own the property at 508, two houses down and across the street from 503. The wife and I purchased the home in River Hill, I think it was in April. And one of the things that we looked at was there were no B&Bs, no rentals. That street is not made for, or not set up, I guess, for SRTs, or STRs. I'm worried about the valuation of the property. That whole street is single, family-owned houses. So I would also oppose the turning it into a short-term rental.
Thank you. I do not have anybody else signed up to speak on this issue. Does anyone wish to speak before I close the public hearing? Sure, absolutely.
My name's Leslie Wells Rambin, and I live at 511 Oakland Hills Lane. And when I first heard about the vacation rentals around the city, I was very familiar with them because I owned Fort Lauderdale Vacation Rentals for 20 years. And I've been coming to River Hill probably for close to 40 years with my dad. And we would stay in the casitas, and they've always been short-term rentals. That's the way they were set up. The rest of River Hill was not set up to be vacation rentals. And I would have not moved here 3 years ago had I known they were going to let vacation rentals into the neighborhood, because they don't belong there, basically. Because like Catherine said, the age of the people, and just in general, it's a disruption, and especially where our homes are, they're very small lots. And I know from the vacation rental business that there is a lot of disruption in coming and going. Fort Lauderdale's different because people would come down from Canada or Europe, usually for 2 or 3 months. That wasn't as bad, but from what I understand, people here want to rent a place for the weekend or maybe a week at the most. And I just think that's not fair to the neighbors around them. And I'm sure they're thinking that they can use the extra parking space right there by the golf course. And I think a lot of men are gonna come by for weekly parties, and I just don't think it's gonna be a good fit for the rest of River Hill. Like I said, the casitas, I think that's great. I think there's a need for them, but not the rest of the homes. And I realize those lots are listed as townhouse lots, but they're not those are single-family homes. So, that's
Thank you,
all.
ma'am.
That's all.
Anybody else before I close the hearing? All right, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 4:40. Start down there with you. Abram, you have any questions or comments?
Do not.
Larry?
I do. Larry, you're gonna live there still, right? Or are you gonna make it a full-time, short-term rental?
No, I currently live at this home, and I will continue to live at this home. My wife and I have purchased a home at the coast. We'll probably go in there for extended stays of 2 or 3 weeks at a time. I've got 5 other short-term rentals in town and have zero complaints from my neighbors. Nobody. The people I rent to are vetted to the T's. This is not going to be a party house. It's not going to be a problem. So we were going to rent it while we were gone to the coast for a while. Over the past 4 years we've owned this home, I've actually rented it 3 other times while we were out of town to golfers coming into River Hill, and no one's ever known it that they were there or not. So we're going to still live in the home, maintain the home, and treat it just like all my other neighbors do.
So not a full-time?
No, no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
David?
No comment.
Good. Tabor?
We're good.
I mean, my comments are that I understand what Larry wants to do. It's a residential neighborhood that has been designated moving forward after this meeting today that will not be allowed to have a short-term rental in it. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit the characteristic of what I think a short-term rental should be, but he's filled out the paperwork, he's made the application. The only thing for us to do is to vote on it, whether or not we would approve it or not. So if there are no other comments, I would entertain a motion on this.
Chairman, if I may, before they take a motion, just a reminder to the commission and for the public, these applications were made under
Yes.
the previous ordinance, and so the commission is obligated to review it.
Correct.
Not under the future one that council has already approved.
No, that's why I said after today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That
after
that
today.
ordinance does come effective later this month.
Correct.
We'll still have a small application window for actually our next agenda, but just to keep that in mind, this is under the previous code where R2 was allowed the conditional use. So just want to make sure the public and the commission were reminded of that.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve.
You second.
Second it. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. We're gonna move on to 3F.
Thank you. Three F is a resolution for a conditional use for short-term rental on Lot 7, Block 1, Riverside, more commonly known as 339 Guadalupe Street. Here's the site plan there. As you know, on Guadalupe Street, we do have quite a few, so.
You go back to the site plan, Drew?
Yes.
So it's 640 square feet? That's the size of the house?
Yes. And as you can see with that driveway going all the way back, there's ample room for parking.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, right.
I didn't sign up to speak, I didn't know.
You don't have to.
Okay,
You're the
so I wasn't
applicant.
planning on speaking, I'm Brian Crystal, and I'm the applicant.
Sorry.
So I can answer any questions about the bedrooms or about the property.
How many bedrooms does it have?
It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
2 bedroom, 1 bath. Okay. That's plenty of parking, it looks like. I do not have anyone sign up to speak on this. I'll open the public hearing at 4:45. No one wishes to speak? This is your last chance. I'll close the public hearing at 4:45. So the crush granted is the parking, Drew?
Yes, yeah, existing parking that is allowed. Like I said, meets the criteria. We do have the standard conditions that we've used up to this point, so staff recommends approval.
Anybody got any questions for the owner? All right, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion on this issue.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, this motion passes. So we're gonna go to 3G.
Three G is a resolution for conditional use permit, short-term rental lot 13, block 3, Mesa Park, more commonly known as 2324 Trails End Lane. This one's also a 3-bedroom with 4 off-street parking, 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway. And the only one is on the other side of Singing Wind that we've approved within the last year.
105 is the one?
Yes.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Applicant is not here. Well, I don't have anyone signed up to speak. We do have 2, I guess, letters of opposition.
Yes, I see 1 in favor, 2 in opposition.
Right. It's really nice to have the applicant here.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna open the public hearing at 4:47. I don't have anyone signed up. Does anyone wish to speak on this issue? I'll close the public hearing at 4:47. I mean, it's not a requirement for the applicant to be here, but it's,
correct.
We've looked at it in the past. It's really nice to have the applicant here that we can ask questions. Any comments or thoughts from anybody here?
I'll just make a couple of comments, Mike. I drove by here today and looked at it.
I did too.
And I know we don't have a moral or ethical guideline on how we approve these, but there's no real attraction
No.
around this area for anything.
It's
I mean, we're
a
not
very
close to-
quiet neighborhood. It's, yeah.
That's what I noticed. It is definitely a neighborhood that has families and, children and, stuff. And at least with the other ones that we look at and we approve, there's something around there for somebody that's gonna rent it to do. You're close to downtown, you're close to restaurants, you're close to apartments. And I guess if you wanted to come in for an event at Shriner, that's really the closest thing that there is to it that I saw. But that's just my opinion on it.
Anything else? Anybody have any other comments? I mean, I'm personally hesitant to approve an application for a conditional use permit when the owner doesn't come to make the presentation. Do we know who the owner is, Drew?
Like I said, according to KirkCAD, it's that is their homestead.
Do they live there? I mean, I know that they can appeal this to the council if it doesn't get approved here, but
Motion to deny.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion to deny and a second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Sorry.
So I don't have to redo everything. That would be nice.
Positive motion helps paperwork size, so it'll be more clear for the applicant and both for the minutes.
So we need to reword the motion that we
Motion
have
to approve
is denied.
and then vote accordingly.
Also,
Does that make sense?
so you want us to make a motion to approve and then nobody vote for it? Is that what you're saying?
If that's the commission's desire, yes.
That's not what I desire. It's what, we made a motion to deny and we voted on it.
Sounds good.
So,
We didn't
Motion
go
was
through
made-
that before.
Motion was made by Cliff and seconded by Jeff. Okay.
How do you make a motion for the way this is?
no, I don't really like making a motion to approve something that no one
Understand.
wants to approve.
And the vote again?
Against?
Sorry, in favor?
Motion to
Oh,
deny.
For the motion to deny. Who voted in favor of that motion?
Vote in favor of the motion
All
to
in favor
deny.
of the motion to deny?
Yes, I think it's 6-1.
And Kevin opposed? Okay.
We never had to do that before.
I don't know that.
No, it's just, with our computer system, it's easier to document a motion to approve and what that vote is. Especially if there are multiple motions, then it gets confusing trying to get that into the minutes. It's not a requirement, so.
Well, my recommendation would be to try to fix the program, because to make a motion to approve something that no one wants to approve is
I
kind of,
understand,
you know,
but, no, it's no worries. Just trying to figure out an easy way for the system.
all right, we're gonna move on to 3H.
Chairman, if I might, I filled out paperwork on conflict of interest. I'm going to recuse myself.
Resolution for a short-term rental, 800 Lake Drive.
This is Lot 3 and part of Lot 4, Block 3, Hazy Hills Edition. As you said, 800 Lake Drive. Here's the property, showing the 2 parking in the garage, 2 in the driveway. And there's nothing in the immediate area. With that, turn over to the applicant.
Hi, my name is Sharon Rollins, and I came home from the hospital in 1968 to this home. It is my childhood home, and after my father passed away in January of last year, I inherited this home along with my brothers, and so we share it, and we come here often. I love Kerrville, and we graduated from Tivy, and it's near and dear to our hearts. We really want to keep this house, and to come, we all live, you know, not too far away in Texas, and so we travel down. I work remotely from this address. One of my brothers that wasn't able to be here today also works remotely from this address oftentimes. And we're hoping not to short-term rental this property indefinitely or regularly, but just to do it enough to be able to pay the taxes, property taxes on it, so that maybe hopefully someday one of us can retire here and that we don't have to give up this house. We've kept up relationships with the people in the community, and I'll let Daryl speak to the more of that as well.
So you are Sharon Rollins, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And I'm Daryl Rollins. I signed up one of the owners as well. Same background, grew up here, went to Tivy back in late 70s, and I've been coming back here ever since, come to all the events. I've brought friends here for years. And with our father's passing, realized someday one of us, and probably will fight over it, will intend to move back and live here. And it's, the house is special. I mean, it's close to our church we grew up to. We go visit that frequently. So we've got, but the short-term rental does give us a chance to offset expenses. That said, we are intending to tightly screen it, and we've got that capability. It's not something we're going to want a widespread tenant base on. Mainly, we expect friends that we've brought for years to come to the festivals and stuff and rivers that will want to come here. And some of them are cheap, and we want to kind of at least have the ability to say, hey, you got to pay something. And so But that's kind of the last thing we want to do is create any kind of situation with our neighbors. We know them, and we're not going to be, it's not going to be the horror stories you hear, or we're not going to do it. And so, but it is something that really gives us some flexibility as we kind of remodel it and use it ourselves and that type of thing. And I can go on, but I won't. Happy to answer any other questions if anything comes up.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to open the public hearing on this at 4:55. I do have a speaker signed up. David?
Good afternoon. My name's Dave Dolan Wallace. We live in Kerrville, but this is a rental property of ours that we own across the street at 801 Lake Street. My wife and I have had the property now for about 10 years. We've had very good luck renting that out. We've had virtually maybe 3 months of non-rent time in that 10-year period. It's a nice family-oriented neighborhood, and that's one of the reasons we bought this. I don't know the implications in a neighborhood like this. It doesn't seem to be a neighborhood that would attract multiple short-term rentals. Because of the nature of the neighborhood, though, I would not want to see anything like that happen. Knowing the intent of what the current owners have just stated here, I would like to see that designation could be terminated at the end of their ownership. I don't know if there's provisions in the law that would take something like that on or not.
No, it goes with the property.
I see.
Yes, sir.
So that would be my only concern with this particular neighborhood.
What's the zoning on this, Drew?
R1. So it would be gone anyways.
So it will not, in the next week, we changed, the zoning on these short-term rentals has been changed, and there will not be any more short-term rentals allowed in R1 or R2 zoning.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that you won't see any more over there.
Well, then I don't have any concerns at this point in time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 4:57.
Drew, are there any other houses in that area that are short-term
You
rental?
put your map up, can you, Drew?
Yeah. Not in the immediate area. Again, keeping these maps about the same scale. I think the closest one, I think it's about 1,000 feet away. There's one to the north and one to the south, but it's 2 or 3 blocks. So certainly not a high density area, but it does have the church across the street.
Any comments, guys? Any questions? Any issues?
Make a motion to deny.
Fine, go ahead. No.
We have a motion to deny, do we?
I'll second that if that's okay with you, sir.
It's not, but it's up to you guys. I'm all good.
Well, we've never done that before. We've never,
I understand. It's a software issue. If this motion fails, recording the second motion is complicated. We'll figure it out.
I could redo the motion.
We've got a motion on the floor. It's fine.
So we have a motion to deny, we have a second. All in favor of the motion to deny, raise your hand. So the motion is denied.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. All right.
You have another motion.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a motion to approve and we have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Thought you just voted to deny. No? Okay. So you voted to approve. So we have 3 votes to approve
Okay.
and 3 votes to deny. So what do we do now? You got 2 motions.
It goes to council.
There you
So
go.
they can appeal to council.
And you can be appealed at the council meeting. You can go to the council and appeal the decision.
Okay. Next meeting is November 3rd. We're working on that agenda right now. I've got 1 or 2 zone changes and a handful of short-term rentals because they are still within that window where they can apply. That will be the last round of applications before the planning commission for the short-term rentals. So look forward to that meeting. And we also are happy to announce, Kerrville has received the Gold Award from the Texas chapter of the American Planning Association for our implementation of the Kerrville 2050 plan.
Cool.
So that'll be presented at the conference later this month.
Is there anything you guys would like to put on future meetings before we adjourn? All right. We're adjourned, 5:01.
Thank you guys very much.
What is this 1 hour meeting we just had?